It's time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Be sure to go follow us on all of our socials at Around the 412. And if you're watching on YouTube, go subscribe to our YouTube. And if you're not watching on YouTube, go to our YouTube and then subscribe there. Hit the bell so you never miss a video, and leave a comment and leave a like while you're also there. And while you're also there, whether you're on the listening platform or YouTube, you can check out the links that we have in the description of each and every show. We have year 6 of Rocking Around the 412, where over the past 5 years, with the help of everybody who's donated, we've been able to raise over $25,000 to be able to give back and provide Christmas for children in our local 724 and 412 area codes in Pennsylvania. And as well as last year, we partnered with the East Rochester Angel Tree to be able to, or East Rochester Salvation Army, excuse me. Their Angel Tree is where we adopt kids, and we provide Christmas for them as well. So we were able to provide Christmas for the individual families and for the Salvation Army kids. But if you want to go read about the mission, the link is in the description of the show. And we also have the Everything Custom Designs links. We have our Etsy and Facebook links from our friend Haley Wagner. She can do custom designed t-shirts, hoodies. It's getting close to Halloween time, so she can do trick-or-treat bags as well. But still, no hats. So Haley's a bum.
I wasn't expecting that. I knew you were going to say with the hats, but oh man, that was that was good. Yeah, it was as clean of a read I think as you've had in some time there, especially at the beginning with the Rock Around the 412.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So this episode, let's get into some different things here in terms of Penguin stuff. I got a question for you, but I will save that until the end. So just some little quick hitter notes here. Then bringing in another player tryout, Colin White, a name that you may recognize, has spent time with the Senators and Florida Panthers. Is this another piece potentially for the bottom 6 that they're trying to just bring in a bunch of guys and throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see which 6 guys figure it out? Or what do you make of this? Are you giving this guy any type of shot to make this club?
Surprisingly, I do.
Okay.
Out of some of the guys that they brought in on PTOs, I think that Colin White is one that intrigues me a little bit more. I think he fits the bill for what they're trying to do in their bottom 6, to be completely honest. If you look at his J Fresh card that J Fresh Hockey had put out on Twitter, he's a very defensive bottom 6 forward, and he's regressed a little bit offensively over the past several seasons. But you look at some of the seasons that he had, especially like earlier in his career. He had 41 points as like a true rookie, where he played 71 games. Then from then on out, it started to go lower and lower. 23 games in 2019 to 2020, or 23 points in 2019 to 2020. I think that there's some upside to him. And as much as you can see, he's 73 percentile for even strength defense. I feel like that's good from what they're trying to do from a bottom 6 standpoint. I think he fits the mold for some of the players that they've already brought in. And I think that there is some offensive upside that you've seen in the past. And maybe if he's able to do that in Ottawa, maybe something could change where you get him into the right system, you get him into Mike Sullivan's systems, and you're able to scratch the surface a little bit on some of that offensive upside that he had earlier in his career. So I actually am intrigued a little bit by this. I think this could turn into a player that the Penguins do actually sign and have in their bottom 6 throughout the year.
Yeah, I really like the comment here from Diarrhea Fart. He had a really good start with the Panthers last year, but then he was just invisible for 80% of the season. Had some good chances in the playoffs and finished on absolutely none of them. Great locker room guy, though, apparently. Yeah, Diarrhea Fart with some good insight there. So appreciate that. Still just 26 years old is Colin White. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the app. I'm still saying Twitter. Where else are you gonna find that type of stuff, that username? So Colin White is intriguing. Again, still just 26. He's got some versatility to play center or wing. I mean, yeah, I guess there's just so many guys that you could throw into the mix for those bottom 6 spots. Like, who are you even considering?
And they're all the
like
same. They're all the type of player. They're all the same.
Yeah, I like Noah Chari to me is the one that like I would say this guy's definitely going to be within the bottom 6. Who else like are you like, yeah, this guy for sure we know has a spot? I mean,
Jeff
if
Carter, everywhere.
I was gonna say, do you think there's any shot though that they would put him in the press box?
No.
Okay.
No, I think Mike Sullivan loves him too much.
Man, I would like to think that that's an option. You're probably right, but I would like to think it's an option for him to not have to be in the lineup. They did bring Drew O'Connor back. They brought Nylander back. Matt Nieto's in town. They seem like they're cool with why am I blanking on his name now all of a sudden? Lars Eller being 3C. That seems like that's his role, but clearly that's not a given. Like we've even heard them say just today that like these bottom 6 spots are open for the taking. Who else is in the mix? Who were the other guys that they had brought in?
Matt Nieto, did you say him?
I said Matt Nieto, Adam Johnson,
Rem Pitlick,
and Rem Pitlick's in there. Who was the other one when they brought? Oh, Vinny Hinastraza.
Andreas Johnson.
Yeah, Andreas. Yeah. Oh, I said Adam. I meant Andreas. Yeah.
I mean, they brought in like,
yeah,
Austin Wagner on a PTO.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at some of their guys that are on their cap friendly. I mean, we pretty much covered all of them, and then there's like guys like Drew O'Connor and Alex Nylander that have been here.
Zahorna,
I guess. Yeah, he could.
Who was the other guy they got in that trade? That Dylan Hamalik or something?
Dylan Hamaliuk.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
His name is. Yeah. There's a lot. And then you look at like an option. Who was the guy that was already here? Puustinen, Valtteri Puustinen. Like, is he an option? There's so many guys.
There's a ton of players that could fit the role for the bottom 6. And I don't know. I feel like that's more a bad thing than a good thing that you have so many guys to choose from. It just seems like a whole lot of mid, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, like can one of these guys be a top 6 guy? I mean, out of them, who do you think offers the most potential? I feel like we've had this conversation. It's Alex Nylander and Drew O'Connor, right? Like,
yeah, to me, it's Alex Nylander. Pedigree of being 8th overall. You got the offensive upside if he was able to tap into that. I feel like he has the most upside for what could fit in the Penguins system. Now, if you're talking strictly just like what the role that they're actually going to play in, like where they're playing, because while I think that Alex Nylander has the most upside, I don't necessarily think that he's going to be able to tap into that upside being on like a 4th line as opposed to like a 2nd line. But I think Drew O'Connor is able to tap into what he can do, because I feel like he's a more well-rounded player, more even keel player on both ends of the ice, as opposed to Alex Nylander. So I think that he could have some good things going for him. But yeah, this bottom 6 is weird because there's so many guys that could play in it, and we're just bringing in another one with Colin White. And I'm very intrigued to see how it all shakes out. I have a good idea of what I think will be the opening lineup, but at the same time, I don't know. I have a good idea of what the top 6 will look like. I have a good idea of what the defense will look like. That bottom 6 is just like, we're just going to continue to rotate players until we find the best option. At least that's probably what they should do.
Speaking of this PTO stuff and like some of the names they brought in, I'll be honest, Danton Heinen just signed a PTO with the Bruins. I would have gave him a PTO and seen what he could do. I feel like he was a product of his line mates last year. I think Danton Heinen's a decent player, and I think that he is one of the few guys that would have been here that offers the capability to jump into the top 6 in a pinch, and if he has to, like he's done it in the past for the Penguins and been fine in that role. That's neither here nor there. He went back to Boston. We'll see if he makes that team. But just with some of the other names they've added on PTOs, I would have just seen if he would have been willing to come back on a PTO here.
PTOs, by the way, we're not talking about paid time off. We were talking about professional tryout contracts.
Which it also seems like this year, more than past years, you're seeing more of those be given out, and it's like to better players than you would think.
Yeah, I don't. Are people just not willing to shell out cash right away?
I don't
Are
know.
people
Did
becoming
Thomas
more
Tatar get an
hesitant?
actual deal in Colorado, or was that a player tryout? I think it was an actual deal, but I'm not 100% certain.
I could tell you 1 second, but I do think that maybe it's just NHL DMs like getting smarter about their teams and
I doubt
not
it.
just giving. I doubt it too, but but maybe it is just getting smarter about their teams and not giving out these lucrative contracts to guys that don't necessarily deserve it. Yeah, it's a $1.5 million contract for the season in just for 1 year
1.5?
too. 1.5. Yeah, that's atrocious.
That just put a tickle in my throat on its own, learning that information. Man, he's going to far exceed that value in my opinion, especially in Colorado. That's a great get for them. I thought it was like a certainty that he was playing on the East Coast. What happened to that?
Yeah, I have no idea, but it's an absolute. I mean, you and I had talked about like we think it would be great if the Penguins could have gotten him for like 2.5. So
Yeah.
it's like somewhere between the 2.5, 3. But we thought he was going to get like 3 million plus. He signs for 1 year, 1.5 million. You're telling me that people didn't want him? I think it's crazy.
I guess.
I think he's
Yeah.
going to do really well in Colorado. But yeah, no, I think the Penguins. I think that you know how there's a saying like you have a good problem when you have multiple guys to choose from. I don't know that the Penguins necessarily have a good problem. I think they have a mediocre problem, where they have a lot of guys to choose from in that bottom six, but none of them, at least right now, are standing out to me where it's like, yeah, this guy has to play. He's going to play well.
Yeah, I would say if they're able to somehow, if you could guarantee that all these guys are like able to stay within the organization, then it's good because that's a ton of like NHL capable guys that they'd have around in the AHL level too. But I don't like, I don't know that that's going to be the case. So yeah, we'll see. And again, there's not like if you could also tell me a guy or two within that group is going to be capable of playing in an elevated role in a pinch, then I would feel better about it. But there's like maybe one guy, and that's just based off pedigree. Like talking Drew O'Connor and Nylander, I feel like Nylander definitely offers the higher ceiling, but I would trust Drew O'Connor in all situations more. Like I feel like he's the safer of the two players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree totally. But like I said, I have a good idea of what I would do for the bottom six. But I'm curious to see not only how the players perform in like preseason and what the judgments are made for some of these PTOs that are handed out if anybody makes a team, and just what they decide to do with the bottom six. It's this is. And that's really the only question mark we have on the team is what the bottom six is going to look like. Obviously, we have questions of whether guys will perform, but as far as like where people are playing, defense seems like it is chalked. Top six for the most part seems like it's chalked, at least, especially when Jake comes back. But I think the only question for the top six right now is who's going to be the winger that goes up to help out, and then goalie, it's chalk. We know who the starter is. The only question about the actual lineup part of the team is how are they going to divvy up the players in the bottom six. But it's exciting. We're less than 30 days away from Penguins hockey.
Yeah, as you can see, anybody watching on YouTube, I'm actually wearing a Penguins shirt right now. Got my Erik Karlsson jersey on. I wanted to throw it on for this episode.
Speaking of Erik Karlsson, his former GM is now with the Penguins.
What a great segue. Your mind was in lockstep with mine. Doug Wilson joining the organization as a senior advisor. In my opinion, don't know exactly what his day-to-day or 100% what his role is going to be. Never a bad thing to add, another mind to the room for Kyle Dubas and just give him some perspective and offer his opinions on things. Kyle Dubas never has to actually take his advice and do what he says,
right.
But it's not bad to get another opinion for a guy that, say what you will about some of the contracts he handed out in San Jose. I think relatively successful tenure in San Jose. They obviously never reached the top of the mountain in the West under him, but they were sniffing playoff runs and had some deep runs there.
Yeah, I think throughout the mid to late 2000s and then in 2016, or mid to late 2000s, early 2010s, and then 2016 they finally went to the Stanley Cup final. They didn't win it, but he built
they ran into the best
some
team in
solid
hockey.
Teams. They did run into the best team in hockey in 2016, but they built some solid teams in San Jose over that time. So I think that it's valuable from the point of getting another what seems like a good hockey mind that can help build a team. But at the end of the day, like you said, Kyle doesn't have to listen to a word that he says. So it's ultimately up to Kyle to build this team and structure it how he wants. But I'm not going to complain about a guy who, over the span of our lifetime, has built several deep Stanley Cup playoff runs out of the San Jose Sharks. So I think that as long as he's not making the decisions, it'll be fine.
Do you think this? It's funny that we just acquired Erik Karlsson, and then Doug Wilson, the GM, that handed him that very lucrative contract in San Jose, now comes to the organization. Anything there you think? Was he brought in at all due to Erik Karlsson's relationship with him, or no? You don't think it's anything?
I don't know. I think that might be more coincidental than actually something the team looked into. I mean, maybe that's something that was talked about, but I don't necessarily think that that's the reason that he was brought on.
I would agree. I was just curious to get your opinion on that, but yeah, I don't know if it ever even said, like, I don't know if you read the press release or anything like that. What do we expect his role within the organization to be?
I think, I mean, he's a senior advisor for the hockey operations, right?
Yeah.
So I think that his role is probably going to be what I would associate with like maybe more or less a assistant GM kind of role, not necessarily like the same job duties, but like a lot of player evaluation, looking at the organization as a whole, not just the NHL level and how the performance is going. That's where I would think that his duties would start, is because I mean, Kyle is definitely the one that's handling the big club. He's handling the NHL level. I feel like his role is going to be looking at how do we improve this NHL level, but also I need to look at throughout the organization as well. Because I mean, senior advisor of hockey operations, I feel like that's not just for the Penguins, that's for the entirety of the organization.
Yeah. And then I said at the beginning of the show, I had a question that I wanted to ask you. And maybe one of the names we've talked about already will come into play here. Who is one player you think that is going to surprise us in a positive way and also in a negative way? So 2 players here, one good, one bad.
Okay. Penguins fans their jaws might drop on this, but my surprise is Jeff Carter. And I say that,
wow. Okay.
I say that because I feel like this year we're finally going to get a full-time winger, Jeff Carter. We're not going to get him playing center anymore. And especially if what's his name, Lars Eller, can come in and play that third line center. Like
we both forgot Lars Eller's name at some point during the show.
Yeah. If Lars Eller can come in and play at that third line center, I'm not saying that the line's going to be great. I'm not going to be saying there's a pseudo top 6 line, but I do think from an individual standpoint, Jeff Carter is going to benefit from playing on the wing full time. We have talked about how that is where he's best suited in the latter years of his career. Just because defensively he can't do it. He doesn't have the legs to be able to do the center anymore. So I am expecting a better year from Jeff Carter than probably most do. I don't think necessarily he's going to be like the Jeff Carter we saw when he initially got traded to the Penguins, but I think it's going to be a pleasant surprise from what most fans expect. And I think that is because he's going to have the less responsibility being on the wing. There's going to be less pressure on him. And sure, like I fully expect there are going to be times where we're still going to see Jeff Carter on the ice make a silly mistake and question what he's doing. But I think overall he's going to be better than what most of the fan base is going to see because of the situation he's going to be in, where he could be on the wing the full time.
Okay. My positive surprise is going to be a guy that I don't know how much time he's going to see in the top 6, if at all, but I think what he's going to do within the bottom 6 in his role would lead to him being capable of jumping into that top 6. It's Drew O'Connor. I think this is going to be his first year where it's like he's a full-time NHL player. He proves that he belongs at this level. I mean, you've seen the flashes. I mean, I keep thinking about that goal that he scored against Tampa Bay last year. And obviously, it's not necessarily something he showed with a ton of consistency. It's not like he was always doing those types of things, but that's in his bag of tricks. I just think with more consistency, with better line mate quality, there's more to tap into there with him as a player. And he can be a guy that pots around 15 goals at this level. Decent size too. I think if you're looking for a player that offers somewhat of a net front presence, I think he can be that type of player. I'm not saying he's, the next Chris Kunitz or something like that, where maybe not the most skilled guy, but just always knows where to be and finds a role within a top six. But I do think that there is a little bit of an element to his game that's similar there. So I look at Drew O'Connor as a guy that I would be circling as a guy that could kind of like somewhat break out this year and surprise some people.
I would like to see that. And then my disappointment, and it pains me to say it, I'm going with Brian Rust. The trend is down with Brian Rust, and as much as I would like to see him progress once again and get better from what he did last year, I feel like it's going to be another trend down year. I feel like this contract is going to look bad over time, and you only have 2 more years. You still have 2 more years before the full no move clause is even removed. I just feel like Brian Rust, he's over the hump of 30. I feel like we're going to get another disappointing season. It was a big regression last year, bigger than I feel like most fans realize, especially when you look at what he was doing in the couple seasons before last season. I have a hard time envisioning in my head if someone is starting on this downhill trajectory now, that they're going to be able to turn around and be like what Brian Rust was, where he was scoring on like a 50 goal pace whenever he had those shortened seasons. It's tough for me to say. Friend of the show, I don't want that to happen, but that's my prediction for who I think is going to disappoint again this season.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say again, because then my mind goes to what even is the expectation for Russ? Because if he has back-to-back years where you're saying he's disappointing, can you even say if it's like, I don't know what you're projecting him to do this year, but is it even possible for him to be more disappointing than it was last year? Like, what does that even look like if he does disappoint again this year?
I think we're talking like sub 40 points.
Okay.
Like
and especially without Gensel, that'd be tough.
I think we're talking sub 40 points. I think that we're talking a major offensive and 5-on-5, just a decline from what we see from him from just what we saw 2 seasons ago. Where Brian Rust, I mean, Brian Rust just a couple seasons ago was scoring at a good points per game clip, because in 2021, 2022, that shortened season where he played in 60 games, he had 58 points. Season before that, he had 56 games in the shortened season, 42 points. Season before that, he was a point per game, over a point per game player, 56 points in 55 games. I just feel like I don't think he's going to be that player again. And I feel like, as much as it pays me to say it, we're going to watch him decline until eventually fans are going to be wanting him out.
You know what's I feel like based off what he did last year and what I think he's going to do this year, I feel like you can almost say Erik Karlsson. Not that I feel like he's going to be a bad player, but coming off 100 points, like, what does that much of a drop off look like where you could say it was a disappointment? I'm not going to say him though. I'm going to pivot to a guy that's playing on the first pair with Chris Letang and Ryan Graves. I think I like the player. That's a contract that you give to somebody that you love. So I think while I'm totally okay with the addition of Ryan Graves, the 6 years at that money, I don't think was warranted based off what he had done in New Jersey. So I think we're going to look back on that contract, and I don't know that you're going to be getting back what you paid for on that deal. I think he's a good player, not a great player. I don't even think he's better than Marcus Pettersson. I think Marcus Pettersson's their number 1 left-handed defenseman, but you're paying and giving a contract to Ryan Graves to be that number 1 left-handed defenseman.
Yeah, I could see that. And oddly enough, I don't know why, but I always forget he's on the team. Like when I think of defensemen, I just forget that he's a Penguin. And maybe that's because we traded for Erik Karlsson. And so my mind
he's taken all the which, by the way, pretty much everybody back in Pittsburgh at this point, right? I think, the team social media pages were posting guys at practice and stuff. Erik Karlsson, first time actually wearing like all Penguins gear, because he didn't have, I think, what did he have? Like he had like different gloves and stuff. In that initial shot, I saw him where he had some Penguin stuff. I think he was wearing like a Penguins practice jersey, but it was with like Sharks gloves and socks and stuff.
Yeah, really it looked like looking, it was like a my player on NHL.
Yeah, it looked like it was some like 12-year-old wanted to mess around.
ESHL outfit.
Yeah. Yeah, but there you have it. Let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. Who you think is going to surprise people in both a positive and negative way, as well as, is Colin White, who they brought in on a PTO, going to have a shot to make this top six, certainly the top six, bottom six here, and the addition of Doug Wilson to the front office as well. Let us know your thoughts on that. Let us know your thoughts on everything that we covered in the show or a different show. This is the Around the 412 Penguins show, but we are here for all the input in the comments. So subscribe, leave us a like, hit that notification bell. And in the description of the show, check out Rocking Around the 412 Year 6. We've launched that actually a couple months ago at this point. But yeah, every year we raise as much money as possible, over $25,000 in the first 5 years of doing so, to go directly to giving Christmas in its entirety to as many families in the area as we can. The 724 and 412 area codes, the nearest and dearest to our hearts. Last year, we also partnered up with the Salvation Army of East Rochester and their angel tree that they do at Christmas time to give as many kids as possible the Christmas that Tyler and I never had to worry about having growing up. It's been an awesome mission. We love doing it. Like I said, first 5 years of doing it, we've raised over $25,000. Look forward to keeping it going. The addition of the Salvation Army has been great, and it makes it just a little bit more meaningful for us after losing our friend Dalton last year. I'm literally just realizing now, as I look at the date, that within a couple of weeks, we're going to be at 1 year since we lost Dalton. And yeah, that's crazy to think about. But, Kaylee and Isla's inclusion in this thing has just made it that much more meaningful. So we're really excited about year 6. If you guys donate, you're also going to have a shot to win some really cool prizes. I haven't gotten any of them yet, but as they are every year, it's going to be Pittsburgh sports related stuff, since that's what we do as a show. So Steelers stuff, Pirates stuff, unfortunately, Penguin stuff, whatever you guys think. Well, we talked about Erik Karlsson. I know a bunch of people are pumped about him. I feel like some type of Erik Karlsson stuff is going to have to be within this giveaway as well.
Probably.
So yeah, donate, get involved, and you will have a shot to win some really cool stuff as a reward for being involved in something that's really cool and awesome to be a part of. So please do that. Also, check out our friend Haley Wagner's Everything Custom Designs. The link to her Etsy as well as her Facebook are in the description. Halloween's a month away, and she's doing custom trick-or-treat bags for your kids. She does a bunch of custom shirts. I've worn some of them on here in the past. But like this hat that's on my head, sorry, that ain't happening right now. Hopefully down the line, that is a thing. But we'll see. But for Tyler, for Smitty, we thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Around the 412 Penguin Show. Another video, which is a Steelers show. Maybe it's another Penguin show or a Pirate show, is probably popping up on the screen right now. So go check that out if you've missed that one. But if you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. It won't matter because you'll know when a new one's posted anyway. But until next time, we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.